Welcome to OverTime, the podcast. OverTime is a podcast dedicated to all things watches, particularly in the micro-brand and affordable range. I'm Praka, and this is my co-host, Justin.
We are two watch enthusiasts based out of Perth, Western Australia. Join us as we discuss our thoughts on new releases, share our personal experiences, and offer our insights on building a collection.
Whether you're a seasoned enthusiast or just starting your journey, OverTime will keep you entertained with informative insights and casual conversations.
Let's get started.
So Justin, how you going, mate?
Hey man, I'm great. As you can see, a little bit more sunburnt than I was last week. Again, spending more and more time at the beach as it heats up. Pretty happy it is heating up now. And apart from work, today was brutal. Tomorrow is going to be brutal, and Saturday is going to be brutal again. So I think summer is setting in. But I'm great. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. Yes, the heat's killer. I think Monday. Yeah, Monday I was up north for work, and that was hot and dry and full of flies. And I think I ate a couple or two. Yep. So just as listeners, if you don't know, when I say up north, it's a bit of deserty sort of area. You know, it's dry, red dirt everywhere, and very hot. And I guess it sort of ties in to today's special guest that we have. But before we get on with that, let's introduce our guest. Hey, we're very excited to have Abhi and Shrey from Nullarbor Watches. Guys.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for having us on your podcast. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you for joining. More than happy to have you. So I guess on the start of every episode, we kick off with a customary wrist check. So we might, as our guest, throw over to you guys. What are you guys wearing on the wrist?
Oh, I'm going to plug myself. I've got the Terrain on my wrist. I thought it's nothing more perfect than self-plug. I've got the Ocean Blue rocking on with the FKM rubber strap.
Beautiful.
And yourself, Abhi? You got you're on mute, buddy. Might unmute yourself.
Classic. I've got a Hamilton Murph on at the moment, but the Interstellar edition, I got it for my 30th a couple of weeks ago. So it's not the Nullarbor, but that's because you guys have one.
Oh, that's so cool.
Very cool. We actually spoke about the Murph and Interstellar not that long ago from memory. It is one of my all-time favorites, and my son has even taken in a liking as an inquisitive little 5-year-old into space and all those things at the moment. So we enjoyed sitting down and watching that together for the first time.
Awesome. Yeah, same. One of my all-time favorite movies as well. And absolutely love that Murph. For the longest time, it was like the large model. Was it the 42? And it was, never going to work with my wrist. But I'm guessing is that the 38?
No, I've got the 42.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go.
He's not part of the baby wrist clubs like us.
No. Well, good for you.
To be fair, Justin, you've got some solid parenting skills to sit a 5-year-old down for the length of that Interstellar movie. So props to you, my friend.
I said nothing about sitting. He watched parts of it whenever there was a good noise or something going on. No, he's great. He will sit down and watch a movie. You know, if it's a Disney movie, he'll sit most of the way through. It's a bit strange. You watch football nonstop, end to end, but there's some things you just can't sit through. But anything with a rocket or space involved, he's hooked on. So I'm very, very happy about that.
Man. That's cool.
Awesome. What about yourself, Justin?
Yep. So I'll also plug Nullarbor. So I am wearing the Terrain as well, kindly on loan to us by Abhi and Shrey. So thank you very much. I'm loving the brown. Brown is a very fresh color to wear for me. I've never had anything this color or never owned a brown strap before. So I've enjoyed the color.
Nice one.
Yeah, man. Brown is I think my favorite out of the lot for sure. It's just a very different color, like you said. Not many out there that sort of pop like that.
Yeah, it's something different, and it's very, very Australian too. It does give me vibes of where Praka went up into Karratha earlier in the week. But what about yourself, Praka? What are you wearing today?
Well, of course, did the same. So we'd like to thank Abhi and Shrey for sending over these watches so that we can try it on, we can have a look, and it just makes the experience better to be able to chat with you guys with the watches in hand. So I also have the Terrain on. I've got the Blue Dial on, and I've actually had a chance to have both, rotated through both, and then Justin had the brown dial after. And yeah, look, I've been enjoying the minimalist nature of this watch, and really excited to speak to you guys about the watch and how you got to where you got to within your journey.
Oh, we're ready to tell you all about it, my friend.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get into it then. So before we get into the nitty-gritty questions, you guys want to introduce yourself and, give us a bit of flavor, who you are, how you guys got here. So yeah, please go ahead.
You want to do a virtual scissors paper rock, Abby, or you want to go first?
No, you go first, mate.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. So look, my name is Shrey. As my day sort of work, I work in insurance. I'm head of transformation, so I just manage a team that look after transforming a particular part of the business. As far as how we got here, I've loved watches basically as long as I can remember. If I look back at my baby photos and growing up photos, for some odd reason I've always had a watch on my wrist. I used to actually wear it on my right hand because my grandfather used to wear it on there for no other reason than it looked cool. But over the years, I've kind of moved it back onto my left to be more conforming to society, I guess. But that's been my love for watches. And Abby and I used to live together just at the start of COVID, and as COVID sort of kicked off, one thing led to the other, and kind of here is where we are. I'll kind of pass it to Abby to kind of introduce himself.
So my name's Abby. I'm a mechanical engineer, and I guess a bit of a tinkerer, and guy who loves making stuff, whether it's woodwork or metalwork or playing around with robotics. I'm always messing around with something. So watches aren't weren't really, I should say, as much of a love for me as they were for Shrey. And the first watch that I ever bought was based off of a movie. I'm a big movie buff, and I love movie merch. So I bought a Hamilton Jazzmaster because I couldn't afford the day date that McConaughey wore in Interstellar, and I was like, I just want a new watch, and this is sort of where I'm going to go. And yeah, like Shrey mentioned, we lived together during COVID, and watches sort of came up. He was like, hey, I've always wanted to make my own watch. Do you reckon you can figure it out? And I said, yeah, I probably could. And now we're here. We've got our own watch that we've designed, and yeah, it's been a long journey, but it's been a really fun one, and it's been really great to meet the community as well. So
I'll tell you what, he says it like that, and it is pretty much exactly how it's happened. It's in those exact words that we started this whole thing off.
Yeah, you've kind of answered the first question that we're going to ask there, which is handy and good to get on with it. I guess you said, I think in your Instagram and YouTube video that you put up introducing the terrain and the company, you said you started making watches for friends. How was that just you two, or was there a bigger circle there that you were kind of making for? And how was the reaction to that? Because I know if I went to my friends, they know I'm a collector and whatnot. I know if I went there and said, hey, I'm going to make you guys a watch, they might think I'm a bit nuts. Was there more people involved in this?
Not particularly the making part, right? So like as Abhishek mentioned, like it all started off by us watching YouTube videos and trying to teach ourselves. We just bought a whole bunch of OEM parts online and then just trying to start stitching them together. So we bought the movement, the dials, and mix and matching colors and straps and this and that. Bought all the tools and started putting things together. We both made one that we liked ourselves. Like, so I made this beautiful orange dial, sort of a Seiko 5 variant, and Abby made something similar, but like this mother of pearl green dial one. And one day we were out and we were out with some friends who also like watches to some extent, but probably not as much as some of us on the call. But they were like, damn, that's cool. The color's popping. It's something very different. It's kind of out there, very different to what you just generally see in shops. So they were like, hey, do you mind making us one? And so we worked with one friend in understanding what he wanted in terms of color and style. He wanted something to match like the Hulk, and so we built him one. And then that led to someone else asking for another one. So it kind of started off in that breath. And for us, it was sort of learning how to assemble watches and buy things. And it took us a while, man. It's no like joke. Not that we were assembling the automatic movement or anything, but even just stitching 4 or 5 different parts together took us like 6-7 hours the first go, and then 4 hours the next time, and then 3 hours the next time. But yeah, that's how it just generally kicked off. The both of us were making them for our friends, and they were wanting to wear them.
Yeah, I can imagine it's not an easy process. I mean, I tried to mod a Seiko 5 in recent times, and that was just a bezel swap was all I was doing myself. And yeah, credit to you, because I was in my front room of my house here losing my mind.
But
it's hard work.
Yeah.
It is tinkery work. I'm used to playing with a lot bigger parts and components to towers and stuff. So going to a fiddly little bezel was something different.
Yeah, man. Like, totally understand. Like, for me, I'm not a big tinkerer. Like, my whole life is revolving around computers and technology. I love that part of my job, but it's always hands-on doing something or other where it's not particularly tinkering such small things. Abhishek, on the other hand, tinkers, right? That's what he does. So he was quite in his element. But just the tiny scale of the watches and then the movement and the parts kind of, it's really hard to put a loop on. As someone who wears glasses, you got to put this little tiny loop thing between your glasses and your eyeball, and then trying to get understanding where on the movement the pin is to pull the crown in and out. It did my head in. I won't speak on Abhishek's behalf, but with the man that has no patience, it absolutely did my head in.
Yeah, I feel your pain with the loop with the glasses thing. I've tried that on before, and I was just like, I can't do this. I don't know how. Yeah, and same with I think even the tinkering portion as well. I like Abhishek. I am an engineer, but I don't have the patience to be tinkering around with those little parts. I just or the dexterity, to be honest. But it is cool to see that you guys started off your journey, I guess, hands-on and trying on trying to modify watches, as opposed to some brands start off very much from a design basis, where it's like they're purely coming in from their designers, or they're really looking, I guess, design. And you guys are looking, I guess, the other way around, looking at the watches first and then going into, hey, let's do something. So I guess Justin sort of touched on it before, but you mentioned that you weren't really into watches as much, Abhi, but what made you, I guess, want to get into this? I mean, apart from you guys being friends and you wanting to support, the idea, is there something else that pulled you into this?
No, I think it was an interesting challenge. It was interesting during COVID to learn something new and to build something new, and to mess around with my mate and try and mod watches for the boys. Kind of was the idea. As we tried to come up with new designs and that sort of thing, and then eventually it was like, hey, we saw the potential to make money from it, but we didn't want to rip our mates off. So it was like, how much money could we make from modding watches? It sort of felt like not really a sustainable model. So once we made watches that were, I think we made about 4 or 5, and then we were sort of like, hey, if we're going to keep doing this, we should probably rethink our business model here, and modding watches didn't really seem like a really scalable solution. So we were like, hey, let's do a bit of research. Let's think about what we need to design, what sort of brand we need to have, what resonates with us, and how do we then build that brand and design the watch. Neither of us are graphic designers. I'd say I'm probably the more creative person in the pairing, but even then, I haven't really flexed those muscles since high school. I did visual arts in grade 9 and 10, but that doesn't really translate to a 26-year-old who's trying to design a watch. So it was just about something that we wanted to wear ourselves, and B, we thought would resonate with us, because it didn't really make sense to do anything and sort of hit any of those marks.
Yeah, very cool. It's definitely cool to see something different, coming out. Like Praka said before, a lot of brands come in straight from the design point of view. It's cool to know you tinkered and played and were in the community beforehand, because it's very, I guess, refreshing. But we've spoken to a few people so far here in the podcast world, and we've never really spoken to people who mod or have played with stuff firsthand. So very cool to hear.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Yeah, and I think it sort of came from a place of, we modded the watches, so we saw what quality of product we were working with, and then when we were like, hey, if we're coming up with a brand, we need to, the modded watches are cool because that was a bit of a novelty at the start. But then it was like, hey, if we're selling this to people, we need to make sure that the product is of very high quality. Because if I'm buying a watch that's $500,000. I'd want to buy a watch that was quality. So we wanted to make a watch that was quality. And so I guess by making them at the start ourselves, we sort of set the bar, and we sort of were like, yeah, we need to, it can't be this fit, or it can't have this problem, or it can't have that problem. We need to look at that. We need to make sure the suppliers, if we talk to them, they do this right, or they do that right. And it sort of just makes the whole journey a bit easier.
And it's also like trying to understand, right, from someone who loves watches. I love the idea of watches. I love the design. I love that it's, it gives the opportunity for one to express themselves in their own way. But I never really understood the mechanics behind it, or the, the technology that really sat behind what an automatic or a manual watch does. You look at it from afar and you're like, oh, that's a watch. Once you open the thing up and you're playing around with the inner bits, you're like, oh my God, there's so much more to this than it just being a watch. So for us, that was kind of a great way to segue sort of from doing something in COVID as a time wasting or a self-learning hobby to actually starting to teach ourselves how to start a brand.
Yeah, I think you've taken it to that next level that we all have those intrusive thoughts sometimes thinking, it'd be cool to start a watch brand, but you guys have done it. There's a lot bigger picture, and that's what we've learned here talking to people is that there is so many moving parts and components to think about. It's more than just going, I've got a design in my head. How do we put it together? There's a lot of stuff from manufacturing to supply to quality control. That sort of stuff is as important as each other in the process.
Yeah, man. There's so much stuff you got to think about.
Yeah, definitely something like Justin just mentioned, definitely something that we're starting to appreciate as watch enthusiasts and watch collectors. And I guess now being in, the watch space as podcasters is really trying to get that point across to other collectors to really say, hey, look, from the outset, it's easy to, I guess, compare watch brands and watch models just based on specs or just based on money or whatever it is, but actually really thinking about the process that goes behind creating a brand and creating a design and all the, all the stresses that come along with it. So I guess it just opens up, well, hopefully it opens up our listeners' minds to think, hey, there's more to this and you can learn from it. So yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah, I guess as well, starting up in COVID is an interesting thing. Like that was the the time of short supply for everything. Like people on wait lists for cars for 2 years plus. Like I just had to wait. I think it was 4 months for a washing machine to come through. Just supply chain stuff. We had to use the small one. I used the one I had in my apartment, and I thought, the kids are getting older, the pile's getting bigger. We needed a bigger drum, so it was time, and it just took a lot longer than planned. Sweet. All right, we might move on to our next question.
Yeah. All right. Well, so obviously when we started off this episode, we talked about the hot sun and the place that I went, which is Karratha, which is to do with the red dirt and everything else. And what we were trying to do is tie into the brand name, of course, the Nullarbor. So, just want to let the listeners know as well that as part of the packaging that came in, you had this beautiful lining handkerchief type thing that had a uniquely Australian touch. For me, it paid homage to I guess Australia's Indigenous people, the First Nations people. With so many beautiful places in Australia, what made you choose Nullarbor as the name of your brand?
I guess we wanted to, I don't know, we came up with a couple of options, and it's kind of a fine line to sort of pick a place that attributes the landscape of Australia without picking an Indigenous name. I'm not Indigenous to Australia, neither is Shrey, and we wanted to, once we did our research, we thought, hey, what would we start a brand about? We went through all the market research. We're like, we could do this, we could do that. And I was like, what? I love representing Australia. Like that's one of the things that, whenever I'm abroad, I'm Aussie and that's sort of who I've grown up as. And it's like all the things that you think about Australia, like camping or sport, I love being outdoors. That's what I think of when I think of Australia. So, do we go sporty? Do we go outdoorsy? And it kind of felt like when we thought about what Australia is to people in Australia and outside Australia, we kind of came to this idea that, everyone's drawn to the outdoors, whether it doesn't matter if you're an introvert, you're an extrovert, if you're into camping, not into camping, or if you're you live in the city or you don't, you're always the beach and that being outdoors is something that's a part of Australian culture no matter what you do. And whether you're out at Australia Day, you're out at the park, or you're going hiking with a friend, or you're going on a road trip, and so it's really, no matter what you do, the outback and the landscape sort of is always there. And so that's sort of how we came to the idea that that's what the brand's going to be based on. And then we thought, all right, what do we name it? And yeah, it just felt like, the Nullarbor Watch Company kind of rolled off the tongue. There was nothing out there. The first thing you got to do with these things is you check the trademark, check the copyright, make sure nothing's taken. And it wasn't. And, Nullarbor means no trees. And that's a big part of Australia's history as well. If you think about, the fact that Indigenous people, using the land, and then, and the colonization and everything happened, that, there was a whole terminology thing. And so it's sort of intertwined a little bit, but by and large, it's because it rolled off the tongue nicely. That's why we named it Nullarbor Watch Company. And
the other thing is, like, for us, like Abhi mentioned, right, neither one of us are first generation Australians, so it's really hard for us to build an Australian brand that's not too much on the nose. We wanted to keep it true to what Australia is, and as he mentioned, it's different for everyone else depending on where your background is and where you're coming from. But largely speaking, it's the fact that we're all sort of connected in some way, shape, or form. And when we started looking at what our brand values are and how we want to progress with the brand, it was all about the Nullarbor Plains having the most beautiful sunsets and sunrises is something we read in our research. And that's why if you look at our logo, it's almost like a sunrise, the logo mark, because it's all what we're trying to explain. It's like, time matters. Every moment counts, and we want to start something new or see something through all the way to the end, on the Nullarbor Plain. So that was kind of the story behind it as well.
Yeah.
The pocket square that you mentioned, the one that you got was paired with the Outback Brown watch, but we've got a different one for each watch. So each watch
cool.
is a little bit different in the packaging that you receive. So the Rainforest Green has some artwork that's done by a really talented artist called Nina Pirola, and she's based out of Marrickville in Sydney. And she's a first-generation immigrant artist. And the Ocean Blue is done by Shrey's partner Lauren, who is born and bred Aussie, and she is also a graphic designer and artist. And so it's sort of, each watch sort of touches a little bit on what we felt was a different identity of Australia that we connected to, and that we felt sort of different people connect to as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. And for those who don't know what the Nullarbor is, it is a huge road. I think from memory, it's around 1,200 kilometers long. I've actually had the opportunity to do it twice. So I drove in a work car from Perth over to, I think we went straight to Melbourne first, and I went up the east coast of Australia, putting in transmission lines. And then I drove the Land Cruiser back, and I actually went over there in 13. It was when I was not too far out of school. I got to ride a Honda Africa Twin with my dad and a couple of his friends across the Nullarbor, and then sold the bike and flew back, which was awesome. And I've worked many times past Norseman out on the Trans line, which is some of the tracks that maybe don't necessarily connect to the Nullarbor road itself, but you end up in the Nullarbor working along transmission sites and regen huts and whatnot that put the communications from the east coast to the west coast of Australia. But it is a beautiful, beautiful place. There's a few golf courses out there. There's heaps of historic sites, a lot of Indigenous sites. It is a fantastic place in the world, but it is extremely hot. I do remember digging a hole when I was an apprentice out there on a around 45-degree day, and the hole took me all day to dig because the machine was broken, and that was what you did as an apprentice. You cracked on with it. But it is a beautiful place in the world. You do get very unique weather out there. It can be hot and sunny, very hot and rainy, and floods happen very quickly because the land doesn't soak up the water. It's so dry and barren. It's a very unique place in the world, but very cool. But if you get a chance to do that drive, I'd recommend it. It's very, very long, but very, very good, very fun.
Yeah, it is on our cards to do. We did promise ourselves we would do it when we launched, but
awesome.
It's just been one thing into the other, into another. We've got like 3 friends who've decided to get married at the same time, so we're just literally going from one wedding to the next.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, like yeah, I'll get around there as well. Just as I get an appropriate car. I don't think I'm going to drive a sedan across the Nullarbor.
Yeah,
Not really.
I don't think my tiny little Mazda 3 is going to make its way across either.
That's awesome. It's really cool to see where you got to and how you got to it, and the name, and like you say, giving, not being on the nose, but at the same time acknowledging who you guys are and also acknowledging the area is awesome. And I can resonate with you guys as well, being a first generation Aussie, and just having some abilities to go outdoors and do stuff like that, but not necessarily do camping all the time. So it's still cool. It's still cool to see that there is that, there's still that sort of outback, and you've got the rainforest, you've got the ocean. Probably more of the rainforest / ocean guy in terms of what I do, but I do like the Outback Brown color. So, all right, well, I'll move on to the next question, which is about your watch itself. Firstly, congratulations on the successful Kickstarter launch. Could you guys, do you guys want to just, touch on that and how that all went and what's next?
Yeah, man. Like I vividly remember talking to Abhishek the night we launched on Kickstarter, and it's so anticlimactic, right? Like you think of it in movies, like you're cutting this big red tape or pressing this big red button, and there's explosions everywhere. But you kind of just set the Kickstarter live, and things start happening. And I remember doing it, and my partner was behind me. She was just working, and every time I refresh the page, it's like, you've sold another one. Sold another one, you've sold another one. And I was shaking. I was like, oh my God, this is, although so anticlimactic, it's such an insane feeling. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but after about 30 minutes we were fully funded. And I was stoked. I didn't really know what to say. I had, we were designing things on the fly to get the badges up on Kickstarter's page, and it was kind of mayhem. But, as far as things go, it was also a big learning experience on what to do better when we go about doing the next launch. But no, since then, we've fully successfully, funded the Kickstarter. We hit about 300% at the end of it. So we did well in the Kickstarter. Probably, we were maybe hoping for a little bit more, as all entrepreneurs do with their first startup. But, I think maybe we set ourselves up a goal that was too large. But you know how the saying goes, you aim for the stars and you fall in the clouds, or whatever it is in that breath. But we're kind of at a stage where we've started production, and we're looking to get the watches out first weekish of December. So we promised our backers that we would have them to them for Christmas, and that's effectively the timeline we're working towards. We're still dealing with our suppliers closely and making sure that the QA is done properly. All the little pieces are sort of developed in time and shipped back over here to us, so we can pull the full package together and get it out. Because different parts of the watch are made in different parts of the world. The movement's Japanese, the assembly's in China, the lining is made here in Sydney itself. So it's kind of a Jenga game to some extent in making sure everything lines up properly. You package it all up and get it out to.
I think Tetris is the right game, not Jenga.
Tetris, yeah, I guess Tetris is the right game. I mean, how long I haven't played board games for.
I was picturing, Jenga just then. I was like, am I thinking Tetris is Jenga? I've got it backwards going on, but that's very.
How long are we going to connect for?
Yeah. No, it's again, like I said earlier, it always blows my mind hearing these processes and seeing how many hands touch the process and how many things are involved. But just going back to that anticlimactic feeling sitting there, it's kind of like when we released the first episode of the pod, like, Praka's at his house, I'm at my house, and, we said we're live. And then every time we got a view, we were screenshotting it and sending it over WhatsApp. Then we got to 10, and 10 was the huge milestone that we got to in the first couple of days.
Yeah, man. But exactly right. Like Abhishek we were over the phone because I think he was in state actually. He was traveling for work. And we were just trying to get this thing over, and it was just, oh my God, did you see? We got another one. Refresh the page. Refresh it quick. Go. It was that's what it was for half an hour straight.
Yeah, it's funny. We're the same now. Like we're I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but a couple of thousand listens into the pod now, and every time we get a huge jump that's like 10 or 20, we still get real excited about it.
Oh yeah, I'm still feel like a kid in the candy store every time I refresh it. I'm like, oh, cool, people listening, and also I guess people all around the world as well, which is awesome. And I'm guessing you know, with this Kickstarter campaign, you have reached people all around the world you know, essentially, you know, I'm reading your tagline, you know, which I think is pretty cool. You know, Nullarbor, Australia's watch. So yeah, well done.
Yeah, man. We actually reached I think we've gone US, Europe, Asia as well. So we've got a couple of people from here and there across the world coming in, and it's so cool to see. Like, you know, even when you're saying just then how you feel sort of a kid in a candy store, it's such a cool feeling, right? Like we're all grown adults, I guess, at this stage, but it's such a
some older than others,
different.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different vibe, right? Like when just those tiny little things, like watching, you know, your numbers grow, or knowing that people are listening to you and they care about what you're saying from halfway across the world. It's just such a different and awesome feeling. It really gets me on.
Yeah, we had on our list of, you know, listeners that came up from different countries. We had the Republic of Moldova there, and I remember just being
cool.
so excited that popped up. I was like, why is this person listening to us sitting here in Perth? It's a really cool feeling. And it doesn't get old. We regularly check in on where people are listening from. But
for sure.
Is that your weirdest location of listener, or do you have something else?
We have something that's wild, but I don't know whether we should go into that right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe it's the After Dark podcast.
Yeah, something like that. Like that.
Yeah. All right. While we're on the topic of the terrain, quickly. So I guess you've kind of touched on this already, but what was the inspirations and ideas behind the name of the terrain and the color choices? You know, you've kind of touched on it, but was the you know, the land and sea forest type thing the only inspiration, or was there more to it than that?
No, I think from a design perspective, it was like, hey, if we're talking about, we wanted the ethos of the brand to sort of be, you know, the Australian country. We felt that there was nothing really on the market that touched the same notes as brands Qantas or R.M. Williams or Kubra, or, you know, even or, you know, in the watch space that really drew on that Australian identity. And so when we decided on the name, we were thinking, hey, the Nullarbor, all right, well, if you're talking about the Nullarbor, the first watch has to be somewhat related. So, you know, either we could go maybe native flowers, or we could go for flora and fauna, or we could go for animals. And we just sort of, I don't know, for some reason we just sort of felt like the, you know, different regions and different ecosystems sort of felt like a nice sort of relatable area. You know, everyone goes to the beach, everyone been in the rainforest or been to a forest of some sort around Australia, or they've been to, you know, Mickey Outback. So that's sort of really how we came up with it.
Yeah. And as you said, like earlier, Justin, like even though Nullarbor is such a vast, you know, empty space, it's actually got a lot of different ecosystems within it, right? Like you've got the cliff sides, and you've got the sand dunes, and you've got not the rainforest per se, but you've got the bush in there as well.
Yeah, you've got the shrubbery.
When most people think of Australia, they just think of shit that can kill you, right? Yeah. Like they don't understand how vast this country is, how big it is, and the different ecosystems that should exist within it.
Yeah, and just by that comment, don't think that not everything is trying to kill you here, because it is. There's poisonous and aggressive stuff everywhere. But yeah, like like I said before, the Nullarbor is a beautiful place, and the way it transforms when you get some wild weather. And I didn't touch on that, but when you see the shrubs and the native flowers actually come out at the right time of year, even though it is a very short amount through the year, it is a very unique and beautiful place in the world. For some reason, I've got a memory in my head of it raining and never really seen a waterfall before. I don't know if that's a normal thing, but never seen a proper waterfall. But it bucketed down. I was sitting in my work car, and there was kind of a rock structure to the left of us, and it chucked it down for about 30 minutes, but it just turned to this absolutely flowing, gushing waterfall. It was beautiful. Yeah. But it's just crazy how quickly it changes out there.
Yeah, man, that sounds lovely. I've only ever seen photos and videos in my time researching, but that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it is beautiful. And just going back to like talking about like, you know, all the animals and stuff, like when people do think about Australia, they do think, you know, snakes, spiders, sharks, blurring octopus, that type of stuff. So it is, I've never really thought about it from that point of view, but it's cool to, see, you know, that stereotype not being played into as much with these kind of ideas.
I think at the start, it's like, hey, maybe if we lean into that a bit too much, then we become the freaky insect watch people.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, you're trying to set up a brand, you're trying to think of it that way. It's like, hey, we'll make it a bit more of a broader, vaguer theme to begin with. And then in 2 years, if I want to do a redback watch, we can do a redback watch, and we could do
Yeah,
for sure.
And that sort of, I guess, leans into my next question, which is when you said 2 years time redback watch, but what's next for you guys? I mean, I guess your first model, you've started off with a field/outdoorsy sort of watch, and a lot of micro brands, when they first start off, they seem to go the dive watch route. What's next? Are you guys thinking of dive watches or more field watches or even a dress watch?
So we've already got, this is basically dive inspired. I would say a lot of the inspiration comes from the 57. Blank Palm is sort of like, all the rave right now. Everyone wants what Bergen, but that's sort of where we sort of designed it based on. I think the next one we'll probably do is going to be something a bit dressier. I think Shrey and I kind of want to do something a bit different. So maybe we'll do like a khaki or something like that. But down the road, we definitely want to, I'm an engineer. I work in 3D printing. So, I think in the next 2 years, we're going to be printing some components and
awesome.
Trying to take it a bit further beyond the traditional micro brand, get stuff made in Hong Kong and China and Japan. And we're going to really try and bring that supply chain back into Australia, because I think that's where, a lot of people that are supporting us now, they believe in the brand. They think, it's a great idea, but I think a lot of young Aussies really appreciate stuff that's made in Australia. And I think that people abroad appreciate that as well. So even if that means increasing our price point, once it's made here, it's really an Aussie brand that we can sort of really, stand tall and be like, hey, this is an Aussie brand now.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna add, right? Like, so for us starting off the way we did, you kind of have to walk this fine line if you really imagine that, in terms of you want to build something that's unique, but also, and in air quotes for the people listening, safe. I won't necessarily call our watch safe, but you could look at it in that light. And it's because you're kind of having to appeal to the masses to get your brand off the ground. You really have to walk that balance quite finely. But now that we've been able to do that and have had a successful launch, and then as far as things are going, they're moving in the right direction. As Abhi mentioned, we do want to take it into that bespoke, sort of very targeted space as we build the brand. We definitely do want to do a dress watch next, but we want to take it down more of an Australian route, right? So we've had conversations with opal manufacturers here in Sydney as well that would use Australian opals as the indices, and maybe like a sandstone cut dial, with the components printed with the network that Abhishek has as an engineer. So things of that nature are things that we've got in the pipeline, but you really have to get to a space where the brand is somewhat established and has people that are wearing the watch, because as far as things go, man, word of mouth is the biggest seller. And we need to get watches out there on people's wrists for us to be able to even think about doing all of these other things, because at the end of the day, they require capital. And this whole thing is, bootstrapped by Abhi and I. So at some stage, you kind of have to work on that economies of scale to really push yourself later.
Firstly, I just want to say that's awesome that that is your plan going forward. That's incredible. There's, like you said, there's not many manufacturers in Australia. I think off the top of my head, there's only a single brand that manufactures fully here in Australia, and that's Nicholas Hacko. And Nick Hacko is someone that's been around in the industry for a long time and has built that network and also charging a lot of money for it, because obviously it costs, as we know in Australia, labor costs and getting materials here and everything else it just costs more. So it makes sense for people to go to overseas to try and reduce those overheads to try and get it. But I think at the end of the day, having that vision, saying, this is what we want to do, and I guess putting your brand slogan to the test, right, and calling it Australia's watch and looking to deliver on that is fantastic. It's a great vision and a great aim. So well done to you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much, gentlemen. We really want to stand true to that Australia's watch thing. We want to, like Abhishek has this dream. He loves planes and stuff, so he's got this dream of putting it on the Qantas magazine when he flies. Awesome. So that's how we want to resonate it. We want to be like, you think of Australia, you think of Qantas, you think of Danny Rick in the F1 car, and then you're going to think of the Nullarbor when you think of watches.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think you kind of touched on it there with your maybe future ideas, but I think Australia offers a very high ceiling of inspiration, and there's many different things you can call on, like you spoke about the opals and whatnot. Australia's got a lot of unique and different things you can take inspiration from. So, looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with in the future, and we will be following.
Yeah, well, thanks, man. We've got a lot of ideas on paper. It's just trying to execute them out is the issue.
For your next models and stuff as well. We've sort of asked this with a couple of the other brand owners who've spoken to the podcast, but is your plan to use Kickstarter again? I mean, obviously you guys had a good success in Kickstarter. Yeah. Would that be the same route that you take?
I don't know, and then Abhi might have a different answer to this. I don't necessarily think we've spoken about the detail here, right? I'm not sure. It really comes down to between now and us releasing that second model, what kind of following we've got and what kind of community we've built. Yeah. Because as far as watches go, they're not like your typical products that people continuously repeat buy. We obviously us watch nerds will probably buy more than one watch a year, but for most people, one watch a year, one watch every 5 years is probably where they want to be at. Kickstarter gives you that community, that open community in a way which you probably may not have access to directly. So it kind of really depends on between now and our timeline on next release. But I'll happy to hear Abhi's opinions too, because it's not something we've spoken about.
Yeah, I'd say it's I mean, my opinions are sort of the same thing. It's sort of like, hey, we have to make a decision and see where we're at when we launch the next watch. I think that the Kickstarter platform offers a really, really unique opportunity where you can really tell people the unique story, and people are interested in hearing that, and they're interested in hearing about the brand. And it's almost, you've got two communities there. You've got the watch community you're trying to target. You also have the Kickstarter community that's there to back people that are successful and that are using that community. So it's a very, very powerful tool. And, we're really trying at the moment to, have as many fingers, as many pies as possible. So we're trying to do direct e-commerce. We're trying to work on our traditional channels of sale as well, trying to go to boutiques, trying to look at, retail outlets and those opportunities as well. So look, our goal is to grow the business, and, we're open to all opportunities that sort of present themselves, and we'll see where it takes us. It's a long road. We still have to get the production for this first batch, and then sort of take it from there and see when the next book gets designed and goes through prototyping and all that. So it's a long way to go.
Yeah, very cool. Now we'll be watching. It sounds like you got some very cool ideas. Very excited.
Cool. Well, that sort of wraps up our question section of the podcast, and we move on to the next section, which is, I guess we call this the something interesting portion of the podcast. Basically, we talk about something interesting that we've seen or we've heard or read on the week. Doesn't necessarily have to be about watches, but it can be. And I guess, as our guest, would like you to kick off and tell us what you've seen or heard.
Oh, you're gonna put us on the spot here. I'm happy for you guys to go first while I think of something.
I'll go first. That's cool.
Go, Justin.
I got two things. I was having a thought when you guys were talking before about, you lived together for a short while, and during COVID, you guys are tinkering. I actually watched a Netflix documentary during the week, and I can't remember what it was called off the top of my head, but I will find it. We'll put it in show notes. It's actually about vaping and the big vape company and how that started. And that was about two guys who were tinkering at university or college in America, and were just playing and refining and making something work till they finally hit their mark and made what they want. And the success there, I mean, you can't walk down the street without seeing vapes everywhere these days. But the success they had and how big it got so quickly was insane. And I'm not saying watches are as big as vaping at the moment, but you guys, that story was giving me those kind of flashbacks of the show. It started as two guys, so the sky's your limit in terms of where you go.
And I mean, that's one of those things where you could make that story about vaping, or you could make that story about the business, right? And it's sort of like, we talk to a lot of people and they're like, oh, you're making a watch, you're doing a watch company. That's kind of weird, man. But it's like, we're not in it for it's not just a watch bit. Like, we really love that watch bit as well. And we love watches, but it's also about that journey of discovery and trying things. Like the guys that did the vapes, they were trying something. It was probably the first thing they tinkered with, and they, tried to prototype.
Yep.
It was, they've probably done like 3-4 other things in their dorm room or whatever. And so for Shrey and I, it's like, hey, we're learning so much just through this watch business. Who knows what comes next? Maybe maybe it's smartwatches, maybe it's whatever, or maybe we just start doing apparel. I don't know, but it's about that journey.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like going to back to the vape thing as well, like smoking is a very old traditional thing to do in the sense of the world. Like that dates back to years and years, and to come in with something like the vape and well, I can't think of the word, but bring something into that world is pretty crazy. But it's similar to watches. Watches are a very, very old tool. We look at them now as these luxury items that you don't necessarily need because we've all got a $2,000 time telling device in our pocket. But there's always room for innovation and design, and I guess that's why we're all chatting now. But
yeah, man. I'll tell you one. I think it's a good segue. It just came to my mind as you sort of said that about old things coming back to life and a sort of change in people's mindset. I was watching this video literally earlier on this afternoon about how Taylor Swift released her 1989 Taylor's Version album on CD.
Yep.
And I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan, although I can crank out Love Story off by heart at any given karaoke you take me to. I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan. Not because the music's not good, I'm sure it is. It's just not been my vibe. But there was this video of these kids opening an old school CD, and they couldn't get it. They couldn't understand how to actually unclip the CD out of the clear cases that they came in. If you guys remember, right? Like, and after they got it out of the case, when their mum helped, they didn't know how to put the CD into anything. They were like, "How do we play this?" And I thought to myself, like, am I older? What is going on? And these were like teenagers, and I'm like, how much has technology evolved in the last 10 years or so, where 15, 16-year-old people are not being able to understand how a CD works? Like, it's such a odd experience to deal with. It really took me back, like, mentally.
Oh, you think about it, like even walking to school rooms here in where my son goes to school, they don't have a clock on the wall. They've just got a digital readout. I don't think I've seen a clock in that wall. So it's one of those things that just kind of falls to the wayside with technology now for some people.
It's crazy. Man. It's crazy, right? Like you think about like a save button on your computer. Everyone knows that it's to save things, but no one will remember it's actually a floppy disk.
Yeah. Yep. I'm picturing these kids trying to pop a CD in, and here I'll, we're all driving around our cars trying to stuff CDs in one-handed with your left hand.
Do you remember CD stackers? Like they'd sit in your boot, like you have like a 6-stack.
Yep. Next to the subwoofer, you got your
you could only have 30 songs in your car at one time.
Yep. The giant book of discs as well, you get to sift through.
Classic. I think I still have a stack of my mix CDs somewhere. All the mix tracks that you make yourself, and good times.
Do you have anything to play them on though? Have you still got anything that plays a CD?
Yeah.
The car. I don't think my RAV4's got one in my work car.
No, actually, no. My car doesn't. No,
car does. I've got an old car, so it's definitely got.
Actually, one of my cars do. Yeah, but nice, cool little segue. Abhi, what about yourself, mate?
Well, something interesting that I've read recently. I was watching a lot of stuff on hoverboards recently. You get into those YouTube rabbit holes and you're like, the algorithm throws some stuff at you. And I'm always watching stuff about tinkering and building new stuff. And there's always these YouTube DIYers. And I just saw this thing, and it was this YouTube channel, and they've made a hoverboard, and you can ride it, and it's got the same controls as a e-skateboard, one of those things, but it's hovering, and it's insane. It's crazy what people can build these days on YouTube, and they're just tinkering and making it happen. So that was something really neat. And they also, the same guys did the self-winding shoes from Back to the Future.
Oh, right.
Oh, wow. The airbags.
They built it themselves. They chucked a couple of servos in, branded it with Nike, and
so cool.
That's sick. Actually, those things are quite cool, the hoverboards. I recently did a zip line here in Perth. So the Matagawa Bridge, I think it's 34, maybe 43 meters tall. You climb up, you get to have a look at the surrounds, take some photos, and you zip line over the Swan River past Optus Stadium, where the cricket, the footy, the soccer's all played. And when we were doing that, this guy underneath us was on one of these surfboards that's got the giant fin and the electric motor attached to it. And I couldn't really see him because I was so high up. It looked like he was floating, but when I got closer, he was going so fast on this one single fin and standing about 1.5 foot out of the water. It was so cool.
That sounds so cool. Like, when you're speaking of shoes, Abby, like, I'm a big shoe. I love shoes, and that sort of just reminded me, like, Nike, when Nike came out with those self-lacing shoes, such a cool thing. And like, I wish it became more mainstream to some extent.
or like the Reebok pumps, when you need that extra couple of MMs to dunk them. Yeah,
I'm a bit of a sneakerhead as well. And I went into a JD Sports recently, and they had tiny little kids Adidas Roams, like literally 1-for-1s, what they were back in the day, which were pretty cool.
Go, Shrey.
No. I was just like, those little shoes are wild. One of my friends, his knee, he bought like those Adidas or Converses for his knees. And like these tiny little shoes for a 6-month-old, and they're like $60-$70. And I was like, how are you justifying this? I haven't you've got kids, man, all across
it's traumatizing talking about that. I think, I didn't get too many of those for my kids. I had a couple, like a nice, cute little Adidas, a cute little Nike or whatever. And that lasted for a little bit for the first child. And after that, I was like, nah, this is just not worth it. Yeah. I
feel attacked here because I go to JD Sports and they've just got me every time. The kids' shoes are so cute. They have like that little panda dunks, and my daughter and son, they're just size each for each. They're matching.
It's only a matter of time before you got like baby Yeezys coming out.
They're already out.
I think they're
already out. Yeah, they launched the Yeezys, the baby Yeezys, when the male, like the full release came out.
Yeah. Yeah, the worst part is you buy one of these nice shoes, and all my son wants to wear is his Crocs, bright yellow Crocs with his Spider-Man charms or gibbets, as they call them, sticking up front. So it doesn't matter anyway.
And you got to wear the Yeezys.
I bought you these Yeezys.
Come on, man. What about you, Praka? What's just something interesting for this week?
All right. Well, something interesting. Well, I thought I would use this bit to plug something. So November in Australia, and I think some parts of the world as well, is where we celebrate, or I guess we participate in a thing called Movember. I don't really have a lot of my face out on the podcast, Instagram, but usually I rock a big beard, something like what you got, Abhishek, maybe not as long. And, I thought this month, November, it's a great cause. We're sort of, I guess, shaving and growing a mo to raise money for men's health. And it's what do you call it? I guess a cause that's quite dear to me, and I thought that it'd be a good platform to talk about that. And definitely I'll chuck some links in the show notes so that people can check out what Movember's about, and give some support to the organization if they would like. Yeah. That's
nice mention, man. I'm doing it as well. I shaved yesterday, or a couple of days back, actually, just to start it fresh.
Nice. Good work.
It's awesome cause.
Yeah, good. I'll happily donate, but the whole Mo thing for me, it just doesn't work. I've done it in the past. I'm probably doing it a disjustice, very much so. So I'll donate where I can.
Legend. All right. Well, yeah, that was cool. I like that. Something interesting portion. We went all sorts of ways. Segment. Yeah. So look, I guess we've come to the end of our podcast. I've had such an awesome time chatting. Yeah, it didn't even feel like it's been how long it's been. And really, want to thank you guys for taking your time and coming on the podcast, and recognizing that it is very late for you guys over in the East Coast of Australia. So we do appreciate that. So if there's something that you guys want to plug and talk about, please use this time now.
Check out Nullarbor Watch, nullarbor.com.au. Give us a follow on Instagram at Nullarbor Watch, and that's pretty much us. I really appreciate you guys reaching out and inviting us to be on the show. I think it's really awesome to meet the Aussie Watch community, and hopefully we get to chat in person and get some more ideas about what you guys would like to get from an Aussie Watch.
Yeah. I'll repeat it again. There's nothing really else from us at nullarbor.com.au. Go check it out. If you like it, hit us up. I'm sure we can work something out as well. we just want to support.
Maybe we'll do a discount for all the listeners of this podcast.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Let's do it. What we'll do is we'll reach out to you guys afterwards. We'll send you a nice little link, and you can send it to your followers and the rest of your community.
Fantastic. Yeah, awesome. Much appreciated. And we'll have some cool photos up. I've been snapping photos of the brown terrain throughout my week, and for some reason, the behind my fly screen door seems to be the best spot for any lighting. So I've got some really good photos of the bezel and the light place. So looking forward to sharing those probably tomorrow morning.
Yeah, man. That sounds really appreciate you guys inviting us over and taking the time out of taking photos and sharing them. Well, we're really on this cool journey on not only building our own brand, but also, like I mentioned earlier, building Australia's watch. So every Aussie we get on board is takes us closer to that end goal.
No, for sure. And no, we're alongside you in the journey too, and we look forward to catching up again.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Like we said before, you guys are in Perth. We'll catch up, and would love to meet you guys in person.
Yeah, the offer stands likewise. If you guys come over to the East Coast, let us know. We'll go grab a beer.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
To me. All right. Well, I guess we've come to the end of our podcast. We've had a great time chatting with the boys from Nullarbor Watches. Well, if there's nothing else, let's wrap up this episode, shall we, Justin?
Perfect. Thanks again, guys, and take care. Eh?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Thanks all.
Thank you for joining us on OverTime, the podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
You can find us on our Instagrams at OverTime the podcast, at Kinda Average Watches, and at Horology Capture.
We appreciate your support and value your feedback. If you have any questions, suggestions, or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please hit us up. We would love to hear from you.
Until next time.